Hello everyone. In the past several videos, we discussed the theory of open systems, including everything from density matrix formalism to the Lindblad master equation. In this video, we will begin a new chapter focusing on quantum entanglement and its applications. In particular, we will look at how entanglement can be used for quantum communication protocols, such as superdense coding and quantum teleportation. As you may recall, entanglement refers to a special type of quantum correlation between systems. Mathematically speaking, an entangled state over subsystems A and B refers to one that cannot be decomposed as a single tensor product of separate states over A and B. In other words, in terms of the Schmidt decomposition, the state over systems A and B is entangled if and only if the Schmidt rank, or in other words, the number of tensor products in this sum, is greater than 1. Entanglement between two subsystems results in many different phenomena. For one, it means that if we try to look at the state of just one of the subsystems, we will no longer have a pure state, but rather a mixed state. Furthermore, this mixed state alone does not tell us anything about the correlation with the other subsystem, so it provides an incomplete description of the system as a whole. Furthermore, if we measure the state of one subsystem, we will also affect the state of the other subsystem, as a measurement on A, for instance, reveals some information about the state of B, since they are correlated after all. Nevertheless, the nature of this correlation is really quite strange, and it presents a variety of physical paradoxes. For example, the fact that a measurement in A produces a change in B instantaneously indicates that entanglement seemingly has some kind of non-locality, which goes against conventional thinking from, say, classical electromagnetism, which is a fundamentally local theory. Okay, so entanglement has some interesting features, but what can we actually use it for? Well, given the non-locality of entanglement, one natural thought might be quantum communication. Namely, if we have a bell pair and we give one qubit to Alice and the other to Bob, and have Alice go to, let's say, Los Angeles while Bob goes to New York, we can analyze the information that Alice and Bob can send to each other by only performing local operations on their respective qubits. This brings us to our first protocol, superdense coding. The premise is as follows. Suppose Alice needs to send Bob a message, but usage of the quantum communication channel is expensive, so she can only use it once. If Alice just needs to send a single classical bit, this is trivial, as we can just take any old qubit and treat it as a classical bit by sending, say, the 0 state to communicate classical 0, or the 1 state to communicate classical 1. However, suppose Alice needs to send 2 classical bits to Bob. How can this be done? Well, as you might suspect from the theme of the video thus far, the answer is entanglement. In particular, suppose Alice and Bob each have one qubit from a Bell state phi plus that they prepared a long time ago. To see how having this Bell pair changes things, let's analyze what happens when Alice sends her qubit over to Bob. Suppose Alice does nothing before sending the qubit. Well, when Bob receives Alice's qubit, he will simply have the Bell state phi plus. In order to send any 2-bit message, we need a protocol through which Bob receives one of 4 orthogonal states, where all of these states can be constructed using only operations on Alice's qubit. Well, considering the fact that the default state sent through is phi plus, why not just use the Bell basis? As it turns out, we can convert any Bell state into other Bell states using Pauli operations on only one qubit, as follows. This means that if Alice performs an X operation on her qubit, for example, this state phi plus will be mapped to psi plus. We could then have phi plus denote 0, 0, psi plus denote 0, 1, phi minus denote 1, 0, and psi minus denote 1, 1. Hence, Alice can apply a Pauli gate to her qubit and send it over to convey the 2-bit message, at which point Bob can perform a measurement on the joint system of Alice's and his qubits in the Bell basis to decode the message. Consequently, by sending only a single qubit through the channel, Alice is able to communicate 2 classical bits of information to Bob, hence the name superdense coding. I should also mention here that you might be a little bit confused as to what these Hadamard and CNOT gates are doing here. Essentially, all these gates are doing are just mapping the standard basis states to the Bell basis, and when we reverse the order, it just maps the Bell basis back to the standard basis. Okay. As an aside, this protocol also has the added benefit of protecting the conveyed information from eavesdroppers seeking to intercept and decipher Alice's message, since the qubit sent will always be in the maximally mixed state, meaning that without Bob's qubit, no information can be gleaned from it. Getting back to the matter at hand, it should be noted that this ability to send two classical bits via one qubit is strictly a consequence of entanglement, as if the qubits were not entangled a priori, we would only be able to send a single bit. Consequently, we should think of entanglement here as a resource. In particular, we can define this Bell state shared between both parties as a single e-bit. Hence, we have that we can use one e-bit and one qubit to convey two classical bits of information. Okay, so we looked at how we can use quantum information to enhance the transmission of classical bits. But what about the converse? Can we use classical information to send a quantum state? Well, this is precisely the situation addressed by the other protocol we will look at, quantum teleportation. More precisely, we have the following scenario. Suppose Charlie prepares his qubit in a state psi, which is unknown to both Alice and Bob. Now suppose Alice needs to send this qubit to Bob, but is only able to send classical information. What can Alice do so that Bob is able to recover the state perfectly? Well, just as before, we assume that we have one e-bit, meaning that Alice and Bob each share one qubit of a Bell state. Based on our intuition from Superdense Coding, you may suspect that Alice needs two classical bits of information in addition to this one e-bit to communicate the state to Bob, and you would be right. In particular, suppose that Alice measures her two qubits in the Bell basis, sending the two qubits corresponding to the measurement outcome to Bob. From here, Bob can then apply one of four Pauli operations to the state to then recover the state psi. Now, of course, the fact that this works is not at all obvious by just looking at the circuit, so let's walk through the math. Initially, we are presented with the following tripartite state. With some algebraic manipulation, we can rewrite this as the following superposition of states. Consequently, as you can see, depending on the Bell state Alice measures, Bob's qubit will transform into psi with some Pauli operator acting on it. Hence, so long as Bob knows the measurement outcome Alice got, he can then recover the state psi by applying the corresponding Pauli operator. This protocol is very interesting for a number of different reasons. Firstly, although Alice was able to send the state psi to Bob with perfect fidelity, neither Alice nor Bob learned anything about the state itself. This can be seen from the fact that the probability of getting each measurement outcome from the Bell measurement is independent of the choice of psi. Secondly, while this process is able to teleport any unknown state at will, it does not violate the no-cloning principle. This is due to the fact that the original state Alice had must be destroyed in order to send the state to Bob. Hence, we always have one copy of the state at any given point in time throughout this protocol. Just as with superdense coding, we obtain the following conversion rate between c-bits, qubits, and e-bits, where one e-bit plus two classical bits can be used to send over a single qubit of information. Altogether, from both superdense coding and quantum teleportation, we arrive at the following correspondences between classical bits, qubits, and entangled bits. As we can see, having these e-bits is quite useful, as they increase the amount of information we can convey. These two relations are part of a larger set of rules referred to as Bennett's laws. Here, I use the greater than or equal to sign to mean do the job of. The first law, in which one qubit can do the job of one c-bit, follows trivially from the fact that we can just have the qubit in the state of whatever bit we want to send. The second law just refers to the fact that we can create one e-bit by having Alice create a Bell state between two qubits and then send one qubit to Bob. Altogether, these relations demonstrate that entanglement is a resource that can be consumed to boost communication capabilities. Without entanglement, we would have that each qubit would only be able to convey a single bit of information. Furthermore, if Alice only had a single qubit psi, any single qubit measurement would provide insufficient information for Bob to recover the state with perfect fidelity in general. In particular, it can be shown that on average, Bob can recover the state with fidelity 2/3, which, while better than the naive 1/2 obtained by just picking a random state, is still far from what we want. Consequently, quantum entanglement and correlation provides a useful tool for communicating information. We will expand on the relation between quantum and classical correlation in the next episode, where we will discuss the EPR paradox and Bell inequalities. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.